I know it's smart to lose face in front of your boy, but you gotta know when to back down.
Well, hello, everyone. Grant here from Screen Rant. Very excited to be coming to you from South by Southwest, sitting with Julian McMahon and Lorcan Finnegan to talk about The Surfer, Nicolas Cage's wild new thriller. Lorcan, I'd like to start with you because obviously big fan of your work going back to Vivarium and Nocebo. And this is your first time, though, I've noticed, working with a screenwriter that wasn't Garrett. I'd love to know what it was about this script and this writer that really spoke to you to want to helm this project.
Yeah, well, me and Thomas Martin, who wrote the film, we met at Tribeca in like 2012 with short films. And then it turned out that he actually lived about 50 meters from me in Dublin. So we sort of stayed in touch and planned on doing something together, but I was busy and he was busy and we just sort of waiting for the right time. And then he sent me this 2-page outline of a project called The Surfer. That was more or less, had basic plot sort of elements in it. And I thought it was really interesting and I thought it could be a film that we could make in Australia as a sort of, in the vein of an Ozploitation, new wave Australian kind of film that both Tom and me are, were heavily inspired by, growing up. So yeah, and then we decided, all the things aligned to get it into development and go and make the movie.
Well, I love that came together and that partnership really did turn into something special. And Julian, you are part of that something special. But one thing before diving into your character I'd love to hear about is it's been a while since we've got to see you do something in your home country of Australia. And I'd love to hear what that's like returning to home for a project like this.
Well, it took me a couple of days to get the accent back, didn't it?
Yeah, I know. I was a bit worried, actually.
First day, I was like, I'm all American. I'm like, I can't even get the Australian accent right. Look, it was great. I mean, it's not that I haven't wanted to go back there. It's just that I was kind of busy here or whatever that was. But, to have the opportunity to go home is a great thing. But also the area that we worked in, which beautiful. Is kind of... eastern coast of Australia, southern eastern coast of Australia, kind of Perth, Margaret River area is quite extraordinary. You can see in the movie, the kind of the backdrop of everything of the environment that we're working in it's kind of its own character, which is a great kind of element to add to a movie like this. So it was many-fold. It wasn't just the opportunity to work with him and Nicolas and play this great character, but also to spend some time in a really pretty extraordinary part of the world.
Well, I'd love to touch on that part of the world with both of you. I mean, beginning with Lorcan, because there's always a dreamlike atmosphere to your films, but I love that this also has that sort of sun-baked element to it. And I'd love to hear from you how much you and your cinematographer really worked to sort of make that an extra character. And then Julian, for yourself, how that really helped inform your performance as this sort of surfer cult leader type character.
Yeah, well, I mean, we started out like having to find a location that kind of worked for the staging of the script as it was. So I scouted extensively along Western Australia, and this town called Yallingup was the last place that I saw, and it was just like, oh, yes, it's like perfect. The beach is perfect. The color of the water was kind of turquoise, white sands, and this car park in the right place. And so it had all the elements. We had to do a little bit of tweaking the script to kind of match it better. But and then me and Radek, the cinematographer, it's our second time working together. And we looked at a lot of, photos and references and all that kind of thing. But really it was about trying to use the basis of the place, and then add to that with art department and costume and color and tan everybody like mad. Like in reality, if you saw them, they looked a little bit like ridiculously tanned. But on camera, it looked great. And we shot with these nice T-vintage lenses from Panavision, which kind of gave it a bit of a texture as well. And it's increasing the temperature through color and visual language and all that kind of thing. So, and then there was a lot of sweat. We put sweat on everybody. And I wanted the film to have a hard light feel. as opposed to the sort of a trend that everything's become a bit too very diffused in films these days, I find. So we were lucky enough to have good weather. So it actually didn't rain at all while we were shooting. So yeah, sweat, and then lots of lens flare, and lots of flame bars and stuff for heat distortion and all that kind of thing.
And then Julian, how did you find that the environment really helped inform your performance?
Well, the environment certainly, because you're just in it. You know what I mean? But it was all of these other elements that he's kind of talking about that were really kind of influenced the not just the whole piece, because obviously it does the whole piece, but you as an individual. I mean, we basically started every day in the makeup trailer with about 40 minutes of tanning, like literally, and I mean full on tanning, and then even the color texture of the outfit that I wear, this kind of red kind of jacket type thing with the hoodie and stuff, you know what I mean? They were all really extreme choices. I remember the first time I looked at myself in the mirror, I thought, oh my God, this guy's like, he's really tanned. And then you saw the way that he's kind of shooting it, the textures that he's using, the colors that he's using. And it kind of just all kind of made it all kind of come together, you know what I mean? So it was really kind of this wonderful kind of thing that these guys came up with. This was kind of before we even got there. They had recognized the benefit of going so extreme. You know what I mean? Whereas sometimes when you can do something like that, you look at yourself and you think this could be a little too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it wasn't like
But it
naturalism
like
wasn't really what we're going for. Like you say, the dreamlike quality of the film. It had to have this because the characters. It's all told through Nick's character, the surfer, his subjective POV. So like, you know, we're experiencing everything he experiences, so it can be weird, you know, and dreamlike, and have a sort of nostalgic feel to it as well, because he's coming back to a place where he has all these memories and everything. So,
and extreme, right? Everything had to be extreme for it to, for you to believe how far he's going to go. Everything already had to be extreme. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I'd love to talk to you about casting Nick in this film, because I mean, there is a certain desperation that we see to him in addition to the mania that begins to unfold. What was it like, you know, looking for the perfect person to embody that, but then to also have Nick come on board as a producer in addition to your star?
yeah, I remember reading, like we were talking about the possibility of Nick Cage. Didn't know it would actually happen, but I remember reading the script through start to finish before we like sent it to him, just picturing him in every scene, and I was like, yeah, it would be great. So then when he read it, he really liked it. Yeah, he just kind of connected with the material, and we got on a call and we got on very well, and into the same kind of movies, and yeah, so then it became a collaboration. And then Julian joined shortly afterwards, and he started developing his character, and we all so I talked to Julian on Zooms and stuff like that, and texts, and same with Nick, and then we just had to hope that it all kind of converged into something that, the chemistry on-screen magic would happen, and luckily it did. When they first had a scene together, that was the first time they'd met each other, and it was just like, oh yeah, nice.
So talking about your character, Scally, then I'd love to hear from both of you, because this is very much feels like a film all about toxic masculinity and sort of the dangers that come from it. What was it like, diving into that theme, but ensuring that no one was necessarily feeling like a perfect character? Everyone had their own flaws as you dove into this theme.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the film, it's like masculinity and crisis and all those elements are there, but it was never a film about that. They just happened to be elements of the story. So I think that is part of why the characters end up being, it's not black and white as to whether they're good or they're bad. They're just caught up in this thing. And, a lot of young men sort of need these strong male role model types, and that's what Scally's character is. And so that's the group of surfers are kind of loyal to this guy, and Yeah, so there are elements of the story, but I wouldn't say that's what the film is about. But it depends on your point of view.
Yeah, and I think you get to see the movie as a whole when you're an audience, right? Mm-hmm. But when you're kind of putting it together or playing one of the characters, you don't really look at that whole thing so much as, for me personally, I more so just, how do you play this character? What does his character mean? Who is he? Mm-hmm. Why is he making these choices? And then as a viewer, you get to look at it and go, oh, there's this whole masculinity and crisis and all this kind of stuff. I certainly didn't look at it that way. I looked at it more like, these people trying to find their place, these people trying to find their way to be able to communicate, to connect with each other, to feel like they can express themselves without being kind of criticized. And I think that was kind of like the driving force of that whole kind of piece of all of those kind of guys together. You know what I mean? It turned out to be what it is, right? Which there's no doubt about it. However, it's not where it's not where I wanted to play it from. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
It seems like you're trying to help him from your point of view as a character.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm really curious to see how everyone else responds to it now that we're here for the premiere of it. How do you guys feel going into the premiere of the film, especially since you've brought it to a couple of festivals already?
Yeah, it's great. I haven't been here in a long time. I had a short film here in 2012. It was the last time I was in Austin. So it's great to be back with feature film, and the audiences here are amazing, and the town is cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, what a great, I've never been here before, so it's nice to kind of come here and see what it's like, because obviously you hear about it a lot, and I did kind of consider it a privilege that you're, premiering your movie here. So I think we're all pretty excited.
Well, I'm really excited for everyone to see it. And then another thing I'm really excited about coming up in the future is we've got Fantastic Four with Robert Downey Jr. taking over as Dr. Doom. Yes. I've always defended your movies, by the way. I loved your coolly chilling performance as Dr. Doom. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, though, on him picking up the torch from you and from Toby Kebbell going into the future.
Well, that's Robert. You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to say? He's, look, his body of work speaks for itself, right? He's a super talented guy. I love watching his work. When we did the movie, or the movies years ago, we were kind of at the preface of all of that kind of stuff happening. You know what I mean? So we were finding our way a lot. We were trying to kind of figure out even kind of what space the movie itself kind of lived in. You know what I mean? Was it a kid's movie? Was it a family movie? Was it a more comedy driven? Was it more drama driven? And we were trying to find all that stuff as we were kind of shooting, you know what I mean? And I think now that there's so many different kind of realms of establishment of the way that you look at those pieces, that, you can pretty much do so many different things now. So if you've got Robert Downey Jr., who's one of the great creatives of the last however many years we've been watching him for, mixed with the elements of how we can make movies these days, I think it's going to be pretty extraordinary.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. But again, your movies will always have a place in my heart, and including The Surfer. I really can't wait for people to get to see it. So guys, thank you so much for taking the time to sit here with me and talk about it.
Good to talk to you. Thanks.
Yeah.